We haven't heard his name a ton, but I think there's an argument for Rhett Lashlee to potentially be Auburn's next head football coach.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Charlie Tuesday. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. Auburn message board legend Kyle Rush, also known as the Charlie 5. He's the man over at the barn, auburn.com, and hosts the Top Button podcast. Should the plan for player retention be a factor in these final few weeks of the season? How can Auburn benefit from the bye week? But Kyle, I want to start with Rhett Lashlee, a guy whose name I haven't heard as much as I thought we would going into this coaching search process. Auburn loves to get guys who have been here previously. We've talked about Kenny Dillingham and the arguments for him potentially coming back to Auburn. Rhett Lashlee, kind of a similar career arc as far as, okay, gets a shot at another P4 conference finally as a head coach and makes the playoff quickly. Of course, he's at SMU right now.
Yeah, and the way coaching searches go, typically at Auburn, it's like the name that you don't hear until the very end is the one that typically becomes the head coach. So the fact that you haven't heard his name almost makes me feel like that it's more legitimate that he could be. I think he did sign an extension, but extensions really mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. If you really want somebody, you can go get him. I mean, if you like Kenny Dillingham, why don't you like Rhett Lashlee? He's been really impressive since he's joined the ACC. He's only lost one conference game. Went to the playoff last year. I don't like the head coach being a play caller thing, but I think he's at least put it out there that when it stops working, I'm willing to give it up because it's easier to give it up than try to take it back.
Sure.
There's a lot of things to like about him.
Yeah. The argument for an offensive head coach is maybe there's a chance, maybe you're more likely to keep DJ Durkin on staff. I don't know if that's exactly what Rhett Lashlee would like to do, but if that gives you any sort of a leg up in this coaching candidacy, if he said, hey, yes, in interviews, I would absolutely want to talk to DJ Durkin, see if we can get on the same page and him be a part of my staff, I think that could certainly help. But like you said, this is a guy similar to Kenny Dillingham who hasn't been a head coach for long, but it seems like it's only a matter of time until he does get called up to a conference that might have more prestige in the ACC.
There's a lot of people that say, SMU is a fantastic job in this era of football just because of the resources they have. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But at the end of the day, it's still SMU. And I think that no matter how much money you pay, there's going to be kids that just won't go there. I mean, Texas Tech probably has the biggest checks you can get out there, but there's going to be people that just won't give them consideration because they don't want to go to Texas Tech. I'm sure SMU's campus is fantastic. I'm sure it's in Dallas, right? I think Dallas is awesome, but there's just going to be people that won't go there because it is SMU. Like, think about, even with all those resources, can you name like a big time player outside of Kevin Jennings on their team? If you're looking at draft,
I was going to say Jennings. Yeah.
And hey, by the way, he's got a year left. Just throw that. He's got a year of eligibility left. He's pretty good. Rhett's just done a really good job, in my opinion, in this current era of being able to assemble a team that can be really competitive with what you're given as far as resources and whatnot. And he's been really successful. So you kind of got to look at coaching a different way than you used to. And I think he's kind of built for this modern era of college football.
Yeah, he's probably moved up on my list some. He's probably in my top 5 now. Kenny Dillingham is still my number 1. If it was 100% up to me and everybody wanted to come to Auburn, like Kenny Dillingham is, I think I'm pretty confident he's at the top of my list as far as the quote unquote realistic candidates. And some people may say that Dillingham's not realistic, and that's totally fine. Only Dillingham will know how much he wants to stay at ASU. But yeah, Kenny Dillingham's at the top of my list. So while I think they are similar, Dillingham and Lashley, as far as their career arcs, I do have him ahead of that. You and I have speculated, and other folks have speculated, that it does seem like Auburn wants to make a splash with this hire, which I think is an argument against why Durkin makes a ton of sense. If John Cohen goes into SMU and gets Rhett Lashlee, would that be a splash? A guy who was in the college football playoff a year ago.
And really, he could be in the playoff again if he wins the conference, which he's 5-1 in the conference right now. I don't know exactly how the ACC standings are shaking out, but if he gets a chance to play for it again, I mean, it could be back-to-back years.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way it's not a splash is if Auburn fans don't want to hire anyone associated with Gus Malzahn. But as far as any other school in the country, if you were to hire Rhett Lashlee, it would be a splash, especially coming off of potentially 2 playoff appearances. I think it would.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely seems like he knows how to play the game right now as far as the fundraising aspect. Because, I mean, apparently SMU has been pretty competitive when it comes to name, image, and likeness and revenue sharing and all of that. You got to think he'd have, familiarity with the landscape. But back to something that you said earlier in this conversation, like a lot of these Auburn hires kind of seem to come out of left field. I mean, we kind of knew about Hugh Freeze, after the Lane Kiffin stuff fell apart, but it's usually kind of like, oh, okay. Or maybe like, like the day or two leading up to it when stuff starts to seep out. It would be very against historic implications and tendencies if John Summerall ended up being Auburn's head coach. I mean, just to be like the favorite from as soon as the job came, maybe even before the job came
leader.
Open.
Yeah.
A guy who just, led the entire time and then ended up being the guy. I'm not saying it couldn't be John Summerall, and I don't have an issue if it is John Summerall. Is he my number one? No. Is he top 3? Yeah, I think so as far as my picks, but it would be, I think it'd be a little surprising if it was that obvious the entire time, just because we haven't really seen that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think Tommy Tuberville was probably the last one where you're like, Gus Malzahn, I think it was kind of obvious. Maybe because of Auburn's track record, and he was doing well at Arkansas State. But yeah, it's typically going to be a name that kind of comes out of nowhere. Like maybe it's mentioned on the peripheral is the word I was trying to go for.
Sure. Right. We got that.
But Rhett Lashlee's name's not even been on the peripheral. Like that's not even been one that like people have rumored that we'd be talking to or is even interested in Auburn. If anything, his name's more associated with Arkansas than Auburn. And it kind of would be a move that would make sense. So that's why I think, man, if you don't start hearing that name, I might put some red flags up. That may be the one.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad take. I don't think it's a bad take at all. So does Rhett Lashlee make sense to be on Auburn's radar? Yeah, I think so. Is he the best option? I'm not so sure, but I do think it makes a ton of sense. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. How can Auburn benefit from the bye week? I think you keep figuring out ways to get Cam Coleman the football. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Kyle, you use Game Time. You love Game Time. You can buy tickets in like 3 taps. You can see the view from your seat. I love the all-in pricing that you can toggle on to where you're not blasted by fees and taxes and all that at the end of the transaction. What you see is what you pay. Game Time's a great ticket buying experience, Kyle.
The app is incredible. To me, the app's worth every bit of it.
Yep, very easy to use. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets, college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Kia Autosport Columbus. We all love Kias here. I encourage you to head over to Kia Autosport Columbus.com. You can check out their impressive inventory. You can start saving today, or you can go in person. And check out our friends at Kia Autosport Columbus. They're just off of Whittlesey Boulevard in Columbus, Georgia. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area, if you're in the Atlanta area, take the quick drive over to Columbus. if you're in the market for a new vehicle. And also, just mention, hey, heard about you guys on Locked on Auburn. You're saving $500. $500 on any new Kia, which is awesome. And then tires for life with any new Kia purchase as well. So talk to them about that. KiaAutosportColumbus.com. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. How can Auburn benefit from the bye week? I think some of this is going to overlap with our player retention conversation we're going to have in a second. But if it's the bye week for me, I want to make sure Cam Coleman feels as loved as possible, and you scheme up as many possible ways against Mercer and, of course, against Alabama in the Iron Bowl as possible to get him the football over and over and over and over and over. Just tell me when to stop. And
Don't
over.
Stop. And keep going. 10 more minutes.
You got to make sure Cam Coleman feels loved. You got to make sure he is the offense for retention, and also for you to hopefully pull off an upset and beat Alabama.
Again, I think I said this on our live on Sunday night, that I felt like Cam Coleman's just looking for an excuse to stay at Auburn. I mean, it's really remarkable. Like the array of emotions that I went through Saturday night, frustration, anger, happiness, sadness, like most of it, frustration at being like, look at what happens when you get this kid the ball. I mean, 10 or 11 catches?
He had 10,
and he just
Eric had 11.
He does crazy things when you put the ball somewhere in his vicinity. And just to be able to figure that out in 1 week, I would say, yeah, keep doing it against Mercer, keep feeding him, and keep him hot going into that Alabama game.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Eric too, man. Both of them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, make sure all the guys that you want on the team next year, make sure they feel absolute love and attention and feel like they're a part of the game plan. Another aspect of it is like, now's the time where you need to have a conversation about your offensive line. Like, can we find 5 guys who cannot who can stay on sides and not commit penalties? Can you find 5 of them? You've got an extra week now, and you'll have Mercer. Sit down, have a long conversation. Does Xavier Chaplin make us better? I think you have to have that conversation.
I was going to ask. Yeah, I mean, I was going to go in a whole different direction with Xavier Chaplin, but yeah,
what's the other direction?
Well, you were talking about retention. Like, is he somebody you would want to retain for next season? Like, if you went through, you would try to see if you could keep him from, wanting to go into the draft and come back for another year to quote unquote improve his stock with a different staff. You got who you got on staff right now. So you got to go with who you got. And I don't know that there's necessarily that. Yeah. Is Ty Buster the answer? I don't know. I don't know. Is it just simply false starting at bad times is what's sinking us? I mean, you did score 38 points. And they seem to, when you do things correctly and you're moving the ball, he does play pretty well. It's like right. When you get in those crunch time spots, sometimes he has brain farts. But and
he doesn't want to jump off sides, right? Like, he's not doing it on purpose. But you've got to figure out what the issue is. And I know Hugh Freeze had some comments about it about a month or so ago that was interesting. Kind of came out of nowhere. Like, if that's part of it. Okay, like, are there things that can be done to help him succeed at Auburn in these final few weeks of the season?
Yeah, you got to put a focus on finding it, because I think he gives you the best chance to win. You just got to figure out, how can we just make sure that one crucial penalty can't happen? Like, what does it take to do that? And that sounds really easy, us talking on a podcast, but right. I mean, it's legitimate. Like, that needs to be when you got 2 weeks. When you got 2 weeks and you're looking at what cost you that game on Saturday, crucial penalties has to be up there. And Durkin mentioned before and after the snap, those penalties are the ones you can't have. Before and after the whistle. And this is a before the whistle penalty. Like, how can you solve those before the whistle penalties? Because that could be the difference in, 10 more points on the board.
Yeah. And I do like how you phrase that. Like, the offense, for once, like, did its job.
Yeah. Like,
did Auburn lose because Xavier Chaplin jumped off sides at the 1? Like, I don't know. Like, you probably left 4 points on the board there which in a game that goes to overtime is obviously crucial, but also like the bigger issue and question from Saturday, ironically, was the defense. So are we overreacting on the offense, and should we have been more critical on the defense for them really not showing up on Saturday? It's such a different Saturday was the trippiest thing I've seen in a long time. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
It was,
and the more you think about it, the crazier it seems to be.
Well, think about this too. You had to make a bunch of calls that week. That week was you're having to make a bunch of calls. You're having to make a bunch of decisions. Now that's seemingly set. Like you've kind of like now, okay, we got something in place on the offense that we think can work, that we can build off of. Maybe we don't have to dedicate so much time now to figuring out our process. We've got our process sort of set now. Now let's build on it and let's finish off these last 3 weeks, your bye week and then your last 2 games before, and then we'll see about postseason. I'm wondering if now the attention can shift back to, the defensive side of the ball now that you've kind of got the offensive side somewhat figured out. You got you at least from a personnel standpoint and an organizational standpoint. Does that make sense? Am I just dreaming?
No, I don't think it. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. The other interesting wrinkle in this is, okay, in a normal situation, you have this great offensive game plan. Cool. Quarterback questions are done. You don't have to worry about the quarterback anymore. It's Ashton.
Yep.
Well, if Ashton plays in both of the games left, he can't come back next year because of the redshirt. And so we're all assuming that he's going to sit out. And the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, I think they should start Deuce on Saturday. But that's, you talk about last week is the week where you got to make a bunch of calls, a bunch of decisions. Here's another one that you do have to make. And so do you spend 2 weeks prepping Deuce for Mercer and 3 weeks prepping Ashton for Alabama? Or is it another option? Do you not care and say, sorry, Ashton, we need you? This is super unfortunate, but we need you. I don't know the answer to that question.
If Ashton doesn't start against Mercer, I think you got to go with Deuce. Yeah, I don't think you even remotely go back to the well with Jackson. I think that experiment's over with. I think you got to go with Deuce. I think there's a human conversation to be had around that decision.
Yes.
And then there's a true what's best to win the next 2 games question. And if you're going to look anything beyond just winning these next 2 games, to me, the human aspect says, Ashton, you got to sit him. You got to keep his red shirt. That was the plan all along. These games ultimately don't matter. So you can't waste a whole year of eligibility when that was the plan all along to retain the red shirt. So from the human aspect, it feels like you can't start him. From the football aspect, does it give you the best chance to beat Alabama to going 3 weeks, essentially with 3 weeks off? Does that make a ton of sense? I mean, you're out of football this week. You get no game reps next week.
Right.
And then you go into the Alabama game, essentially 3 weeks with nothing but just practice to prepare. Does that give you the best chance to win that game? That's the tough dilemma. That is the dilemma.
It's a great question.
Ultimately, I think the human aspect weighs out. I think you show a lot of leadership.
Ashton the human, and Ashton the human has been such an asset and patient and been a great backup. I mean, that was part of why that addition was so big. So yeah, I think you said him. I think you said him too because of that human element that you mentioned.
Yep.
We touched on this a second, but like the player retention here needs to be crucial, and it's a little tricky because this staff might be tasked with player retention, but these guys may not be here next year. It's weird. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel? I can't.
No sense.
I can't right now. Obviously, Auburn's line against Mercer is not up yet, but you can bet on Auburn basketball to win the national championship, plus 8,000, or to win the SEC regular season, plus 2,500, or to reach the Final Four, plus 2,000. So, despite the bumpy start, bumpy being somewhat subjective, I think it's fine. FanDuel seems to still believe in the Tigers, which I think
seriously, that's not that crazy.
I think, yeah, that means you're in it. It means you got a shot. Absolutely. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Kyle, player retention is obviously a big thing that fans are caring about. I'm interested to see how much the staff focuses on that over the last few weeks, because while they are trying to, beef up their resume, whether it's to stay at Auburn or to appeal to whoever the next head coach is or for their next stop, it's a weird balance of fans want the players to make sure they're happy so they come back. And I don't know if that's like the same goal as this coaching staff because of all the uncertainty. It's kind of a weird yin and yang here.
Yeah. I don't think you change anything on the defensive side. I feel like everybody's playing. You know what I mean? If you're you got to play. If you're this coaching staff, you can't look at next season. You know what I mean? Like the only personnel situation I think that you can actually look ahead. I mean, that whole Ashton deal that we just discussed, that to me is an anomaly in general. Like, I don't think you can really, you got to put the best product you can on the field and try to do whatever you can to sell yourself, not only for the Auburn job, but future jobs. To me, if I'm Derek Nix, like this is my first real opportunity to call plays. And I get to stamp my name on this. Like, I'm going to go try to do everything I can to put up as many points as I can. You know what I mean?
Derek Nix is going to get a job being like a legitimate play calling coordinator after this year.
I think so. Why? I mean, holy cow. You got your first opportunity, and that's what you did. I assume it's first opportunity. I don't know of another time he's been a full-time play caller. Like,
well, I mean, his OC stops have been under Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at Ole Miss for a while, but he was a running backs coach for forever. So yeah, I'm assuming that as well. And like, we talked about going into it. What a great opportunity. Did not expect that from it.
Not at
Goodness
all.
gracious.
No, not
and so
at all.
if you're him, going back to like, I think you got to put so much in Cam Coleman in front of Cam Coleman. If you're Derek Nix trying to prove that you can be a legit play calling offensive coordinator somewhere, why wouldn't you get it to Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton as much as humanly possible?
Here's the thing is, like, we think about it like it's a pitch count. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I got to get Cam X amount of this. I got to get so-and-so this amount of this. And in reality, if you just run your offense to try to get playmakers open, like, those things take care of themselves. You know what I mean? So you're not thinking about, oh my gosh, I've only gotten the ball to Cam this amount of times. You're just running your offense the way you know how to run it. And those things will present themselves. Those opportunities will present themselves. So I don't necessarily think you have to do anything different. I don't think you have to do. I sometimes think maybe calling plays with retention in mind is what led to the offense looking the way it did ever since Hugh Freeze has been here. Trying to keep everybody happy instead of just doing what you know how to do.
Do you buy that narrative? Because I mean, that's what a lot of people said. Looked like he had promises made to some people. You buy that?
I don't know. It definitely probably, I would imagine it factored in. It sometimes felt that way.
I don't have a pushback against the argument. Yeah.
It felt like maybe we're calling plays with a pitch count in mind, especially to the wide receivers. And because the passes that they get don't seem natural. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like, it seems forced.
There was no flow until Saturday.
No. I completely agree. That's why Cam could only get comeback routes and deep balls. He still got deep balls, but he also had some big conversions over the middle as well. Same with Eric Singleton.
It looked great.
Looked like a real offense. Yeah.
Eric Singleton is like just 10 yards. It's like, yes. Where has that been?
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think if you just run your offense, the retention part will take care of itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does make sense. Kyle Rush, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. Go to our YouTube page, The Barn Auburn, and anywhere you get a podcast, The Barn Podcast Network. We're putting up content pieces every single day. A lot of information, a lot of fun, a lot of great conversation.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.